My name is Peter Knepell. This is my wife, Roz. Her maiden name was Israel, which we'll talk about later. Roz grew up in an Air Force family, and I stole her from that family. I went to the Air Force Academy and graduated in 1967, and I retired in 1988 as a lieutenant colonel.
And so where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York City and went to high school in Brooklyn. And 4 of us came to the Air Force Academy. 3 of us were Jewish. The 4th guy was Italian.
What interested you in joining the Air Force Academy?
The draft. This was the Vietnam era. I did not want to go into the Army. And secondarily, I really like parades. But truly the draft. And well, I did have a desire to go fly. And that started when I was about 10.
So when you were 10, what struck your interest in aeronautics?
My mother, I have part of my family lives in Argentina, and my mother and I flew down there to visit the family one summer. And in that era, it was all prop planes, and you had to spend the night somewhere and so on. And the flying itself was fun, but then I actually saw an Air Force airplane on the ground in Brazil when we were refueling. And I said, do they actually pay people to fly? And my mother said yes. And I said, oh, that's kind of fun.
In ensuing years, what was your experience with flying from the time you were 10 till graduating high school?
Just commercial. I'd never been on a jet airplane until I flew to Colorado to go to the Air Force Academy. That was my first jet ride.
Roz, how about you?
I grew up Air Force. I was born in Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. We lived in lots of different places, but I never got to go overseas with my family.
So how did you, as a child, where did your Jewish values, how'd you get them? How'd you pick up Jewish values along the way?
Mainly from my family, because we were often in places where it was not available to go to shul and, have Sunday school or Hebrew school. And it was mainly from my parents. I was very fortunate. I had wonderful parents. Excellent. And they had good Jewish values, and that was important.
And Pete, how about for you?
Well, first of all, my parents escaped from Vienna, Austria in 1939. And I'm very grateful for that because I wouldn't have been born if it hadn't been successful. As a result of that, they wanted to assimilate, so they did not identify as Jewish. When I was about 10, and I grew up in New York City, which is very Jewish, large Jewish population in New York City. All of my friends were getting bar mitzvah, and I was not. We had Christmas trees, so when I was 10, I asked my parents if we were Jewish, and they said yes. And I said, well, why do we have Christmas trees? And they said, well, it's for you, but if you don't want one, we'll take it down. So we did. And I enrolled in Hebrew school and got my bar mitzvah lessons. It was mainly peer pressure, frankly. And the rabbi forced my parents to come to shul. It was a conservative congregation, and I did get bar mitzvah. And that was the end of it until I went to the Air Force Academy. There were 40 Jewish cadets out of 2,400 cadets. And I identified with the whole Jewishness of the group, the 40 of us. And so, and finding identity in the military was a big thing because it's, you're a small fish in a big pond. And so it really did help. And then Rabbi Labinger, the chaplain, he was a captain at the time, introduced us, and the rest is history regarding that.